This video is sponsored by the Magic Candle Company. Use code ROXYLAND15 to get 15% off your order and make your home smell like your favorite theme park attractions.
In early 2001, Disney's California Adventure opened to wonderful reviews, impressed crowds, and inspired guests, and no attraction symbolizes this light of imagination quite like Michael Eisner's golden child, Superstar Limo. Right? Right?
The early days of California Adventure were rocky, to say the least, and although I personally hold a lot of nostalgia when looking back on DCA 1.0, I know many guests were incredibly disappointed in its lackluster kitsch when it opened. Many aspects of this original concept have been lost to history after intense guest backlash and an infamous drop in revenue from the company. In my opinion, these reactions were dramatic, to say the least, and I often wonder if the park and aspects of it could have been salvaged. So what better attraction to dive into this than with Superstar Limo?
As I began to write this video, I had no idea what conclusion I would ultimately draw, but I wanted to answer one big question. Does Superstar Limo deserve a comeback?
Superstar Limo was an opening day attraction in California Adventure that let guests sneak a peek into the strange world of Hollywood. Although the original story centered around a high-speed chase while being followed by the paparazzi, that concept was quickly changed due to the tragic accident involving Princess Diana. The ride consisted of bizarre animatronics of late 90s, early 2000s celebrities and 2D backgrounds displaying classic Los Angeles locations like Venice Beach, Beverly Hills, and Bel Air. Most of the critiques of the ride focused on how quickly it would have become out of date, and also how aggressive the visuals and audio were. Although I do agree with these critiques, I think there's more to untangle. The ride falls into a similar problem some movies have.
People in the movies love making movies about making movies, but do people not in the movies like watching movies about making movies?
When Singin' in the Rain was released in 1952, the filmmaking process was not only still developing, but was much more mysterious than it is today. Behind-the-scenes featurettes are easily located on DVD special features, and even more recently on YouTube and social media, and much of the modern filmmaking lexicon is known and understood by those outside of the industry. Interestingly, on the opposite coast, the better version of this ride had been operating for over a decade. It's hard not to compare Superstar Limo and the Great Movie Ride because of their similarity in content, and although their tone and style is very different, these differences show the varying effects on riders. For example, the Great Movie Ride honors classic films that changed the course of filmmaking forever, and all of the films still rank quite highly on annual best film lists. Meanwhile, Superstar Limo sits in an absurd nostalgia for the grimy and hyperbolized Hollywood of the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s. Even just watching the two videos, the Great Movie Ride left me feeling cozy and inspired by the great films they featured. Meanwhile, Superstar Limo left me feeling gross and uncomfortable. I know California Adventure was done on a budget, but I still think Superstar Limo could have pivoted to focus on a mix of honoring history while still putting us in the shoes of a movie star. The ride could have taken us back to 1940s Hollywood with us as new actors on the scene. The story would follow us as we toured the backlot, are brought to our office bungalow, and eventually escorted onto set to begin our first feature film. Our agent could talk in a transatlantic accent, and we could swerve through the productions of scenes from famous movies, meeting famous directors that were on the lot that day, and running into other famous actors and actresses. Right before the offload area, our vehicle would enter into the back of a theater and see the silhouettes of people watching our film. While the credits roll, our names are displayed on the screen for an extra bit of Disney magic and immersion before we leave our vehicles. Now, whether this is from our magic bands or it's done like the E.T. adventure where we give our name ahead of time, it doesn't really matter. Either way, it brings newer technology into a more classically structured dark ride. Now, none of this is said to discredit the Monsters, Inc. attraction. It still stands as one of my favorite dark rides at the Disneyland Resort, and its addition to DCA makes much more sense considering the renovation of Paradise Pier into Pixar Pier. Now, I do think that Ariel's Undersea Adventure would be better replaced with Monsters, Inc., so it could be closer to Pixar Pier, but I guess that's a video for another time. All I want to argue is that maybe with a little bit of persistence and a fresh coat of paint, Superstar Limo could have been the West Coast's version of the Great Movie Ride. If Eisner wanted to allow guests to see Hollywood and all the city had to offer, what better way to do that than to honor the city's incredible film history? So what do you think? Should Disney give another chance to Superstar Limo, or should we just leave it alone? Let me know what you think in the comments. If you liked this video, don't forget to subscribe because it really helps with the sweet YouTube algorithm. You can find me on Instagram and TikTok at RoxylandMedia, and I will see you all next time.